Hey guys, welcome to the conversation that I'm going to have with Genn from Funding Circle. Genn, thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah.
Do you want to just maybe introduce yourself to the camera,
Sure.
let people know your role and what you do at Funding Circle?
Sure. I'm Genn Maravolo. I've been at Funding Circle almost 3 years. My role is head of growth and strategy, so I focus very much on the future of Funding Circle. How do we get people, businesses knowing about our product, about our brand, and just generally like finding new opportunities.
Obviously, the future growth is important for you. We've been working together for 8 years-ish as two organisations. You've not been a part of that whole journey.
Sure.
You joined Funding Circle,
3 years
ago. I'd be keen to see, I guess, what your perspective is on the work that we've done across those 3 years.
Sure.
Obviously, you'll have a second-hand perspective of the early stages of working together, but over the last 3 years, what are the things that maybe you look back on and are most proud of in terms of the work we've done together and the learnings and the growth? And we're going to dig into some of those things.
Sure. As you mentioned, we've obviously, I've not worked on the relationship for its entirety, but I think coming into that relationship, I guess I didn't know initially what to expect. We had lots of campaigns already set up, and I had a bit of a view of what we needed to achieve. And I think what's been really refreshing over the last 2-3 years that we've been working together is actually, it's been a journey of us working together. It's not a, can you guys go do this, go away and do it. It's been a team effort. We've had challenges along the way, and I think what's really invaluable to us is actually we provide feedback, and you provide feedback likewise to us. We talk about making changes, and we actually make those changes. And now we're really starting to reap the rewards from those changes, and we're starting to see a lot of the growth that we've been expecting through this channel. And now it's a significant part of our company. It's a significant part of how we grow and talk about our products.
One of the things that we see is that clients often think it's, do I do it internally or do I outsource this part of the sales process?
Yeah.
You guys have an internal team, you have a number of internal teams, and you work with us consistently across that. And that's been a really interesting blend where there's enough differentiation between those two teams, but there's also enough collaboration that it works. Maybe you could just provide some commentary around how you make that work and why you run it that way, where you've got an internal team and an external.
Yeah, I mean, like as you mentioned, we've got, I guess, dedicated resource internally, and they have very focused areas of sales. Again, they are a very important part of our business, and they drive a lot of the growth that we see. I think having a partnership with has allowed us to do a couple of things. One, it's allowed us to experiment into areas that are maybe too risky to do internally. We don't want to hire and develop a team for something to not work. It allows us to scale quite quickly. So, quite frequently I come to you and I've said, like, we need X hundred thousands of hours. How quickly can we look to deliver those? And so it allows us to be very flexible. And the environment in the business that I work in, FlexSpace specifically, we are on this continuous loop of investing and testing and seeing how we can do things better. Having somebody who we can work with and depend on and be agile to our requirements has been really critical. We've looked at working with other third parties, and the one thing that really stands out is that they've got a way of doing something, and very rarely do they want to deviate or change or work with us. And so, and that's part of our relationship and long-standing relationship. But I think it allows us to grow, allows us to test, and it also gives us a really good A/B metric. It goes, okay, how well is this team performing versus this team? And I think net, what it does is it elevates everybody, and it ultimately gets us to the position where we want to be, which is efficient growth.
What have been, in the time that you've been at Funding Circle and working with Air, what have been some of the bigger challenges? Because I think it's great to talk about the stuff that goes well.
Yeah.
But there's also some stuff that, like any sales process or any sort of growth journey, there are bumps and challenges along the way that make you think, we've got to do things differently. What are some of the things that stand out when you think about those challenges?
I think that the reality is there's a bit of a gap in transparent or visibility. So the guys here can't see some of the internal systems, something quite technical. They can't see necessarily what's going on with customers, live in the moment, and vice versa. We don't have a view of like what are the guys saying on every call, how's the training going, what does the QA look like? And so it's not always been rosy, as you mentioned. There have been pockets, and we see this internally as well, where performance hasn't been where we'd like it to be. And I think what's been really great is that we've been able to work on that together. We've been able to identify the issues underlying, and we've put processes in place. We've done some more technical integrations. We've grown the relationship to a point where we can go open with each other. We can, we'll have weekly catch-ups with the team. We'll say, okay, last week wasn't great. What's going on? How efficient are we at dialing this cohort of customers? And so over the last 2 years, we've got to this point of elevation where we are very efficient and we are very open with each other. And those, I guess, peaks and troughs of performance have been slightly more flatlined or a lot smoother now. Yes, we still experience issues, but actually we know why. We know how to address them. And so we can forecast. We can see that actually by utilising you guys, we know what we're going to get in the next quarter, in the next half year.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I think one of the things that people talk about transparency of relationship with suppliers, and the work that we do together is so integral to the business, but it's people focused. So you have to understand that it's okay to say, well, we haven't performed as well this month, and this is why. We talked about it in a quarterly review today. We've got these 2 people that we've had to manage out of the program because performance hasn't been strong. We're not immune to that externally, and we maybe reached a tipping point at some point in the relationship where it became okay for us to say, we realised it was okay to say that.
There's definitely a point in our relationship where I think we were asking a lot of you, especially at the start when FlexiPay, part of Funding Circle came involved with Air, and we were asking a lot of the team, a lot of you guys. Our requirements changed quite frequently, and being a fintech within a scale-up business, Air weren't used to working in that way. They were so used to the campaigns they had live. It was very a BAU state, and we came along and were somewhat a ball and trying to shop. And I think to start with, you guys just wanted to please us. You were like, great, this is new business, this is stuff that we're excited about. Let's just say yes every single time. And I think it got to a point where actually we're like, look, let's just be open. If you can't do something, tell us. Let's find a way that we can work around it. And I think that's really elevated our relationship. And now we can go to each other and say, look, can we do this? And you'll say, yes, but, or no, and it's so much more collaborative. And that transparency is really key to that relationship.
What are maybe some of the things that you do internally to support Air as an outsourced sales agency? Because I think quite often people think, we're going to outsource this, we can give it to them and they'll just do it.
Just get on.
But that will fail, right? And I think we're open about that. What are some things that you see around you in Funding Circle that contribute to the shared success?
And you know what, we were probably similar to that in a way. There was an expectation of like, great, these guys know how to sell, just give them the goods and off they go. And like to some degree that is true. Like there's lots of capable people here that know how to sell and will do that very well. And I think what we really strive for is efficiency. It's like, how much can we get out of this relationship? How do we make it grow? And so, we want to make sure that we have regular meetings, regular catch-ups, and that means weekly. Like, what happened last week? What's going to happen next week? How do we, not micromanage, but how do we make sure that we're on top of performance? I think the other thing is like some of the technical integrations that we've done. So like, how do we increase that visibility so that if somebody's had a call with a customer, they know what's happening to their customer. And then a lot of it comes down to the training and the communication that we provide. So we want to make sure, we're selling financial products ultimately. We want to make sure what we're telling customers is accurate, is up to date. And so there's an obligation on us to not only provide that information, but provide it in a way that's useful to you guys.
What are some of the things that you like about working with the team? What's it like? What are the people like? Just talk around your relationship to people and how, if you were describing working with Air to somebody else, like what would you say is good?
I definitely see you guys as an extension of our company. I don't see you as a third party, which I think is quite telling to the relationship we've got and to the type of people that you've got here. Your hiring process is clearly rigorous enough for each of your clients that you understand, okay, actually Funding Circle really cares about X, Y, and Z. How do we find those people? And those are the people that we would hire if they were based in London. And so I think that's really what it is. It's like, it's an extension to your own company. They share our values, they share our mission goals, and actually they're really excited about our product. And there's nothing more exciting than coming in and seeing your logo on the TV and people asking for stash and it's a great environment to be around, as well as being able to see that we can perform. It's not just all happy families, but behind the scenes it's not going really well. Actually, it's great on all fronts.
Could you talk around the commercial impact with what you're allowed to share and you're comfortable sharing? So what I guess the question is, what commercial impact does working with it have on Funding Circle's growth journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So Funding Circle for a very long time was a term loan only business, monoline product, and we had, I guess, fingers in a number of pies in terms of acquisition channels. Outbound's always been a channel for us. And so naturally when FlexPay come along, new product, and now the cashback card, it was like, okay, well, what works well on the term loan side and how can we adopt those? And, surprisingly or not, a lift and drop wasn't the right answer. So initially we didn't see the performance we wanted to. We compared it to term loan. There was a lot of upskilling. The products that we offer aren't necessarily the simplest, and so there's a lot of training that needs to go into it, a lot of development, a lot of time that we need to spend. But actually, that's really starting to pay dividends. And so now, for us, is a really strong contributor to our growth month on month. And as I mentioned earlier, it's something that we can rely on. It's something that we forecast in our budget, in our reforecast, and we go, yes, actually, we're going to get X% of our growth, our businesses, through Air Marketing Group. And, we use you guys as a comparison to our internal team, but, if I were to do it as a comparison, you guys probably drive versus them, probably, an equal share, probably 50-50. And so we regard you just as much as we do as our internal team, and you're just as critical at delivering growth for us as our internal team. So really meaningful.
What's next for Funding Circle? What's next going into the rest of this year and 2026 next year? What does the growth journey look like?
It's a good question. So again, we've relied on certain channels for a very long time. Outbound being a very big one. We do a lot of DM, we do a lot of digital marketing. What we want to do is venture into channels that we haven't explored previously, or we haven't been able to find that they work. And ultimately, what we want to do is find businesses that aren't hearing our message today. Like how can we find businesses and support them? And so, we've got some stuff with partnerships, through affiliates, through our broker network. It's really about being at the right place at the right time when a customer can see you. And that might be a DM, it might be an outbound call. And so it's continuing what we do really well, but finding those new growth opportunities, those new channels, whilst also developing the proposition. Our product helps tens of thousands of businesses a day, and they're transacting on a daily basis. They're super, super sticky, but there's things that we can improve. How can we make it better for them? How can we make it easier for them? How can we give them, the capabilities that they expect and that they don't expect? The things that I think, oh wow, that's really cool, that's really innovative. So it's all about growth, but growth in product, in proposition, in features, benefits, but also growth in where we talk, how we talk about the product, building that brand. We're not just a term loan business. We're a finance hub. We are a place that business can come and get a solution that helps them grow, helps them invest, helps them pay salary sometimes. Sometimes it's something really, really important to a business, but they won't just go looking for it.
What do you think are the biggest learnings for you? So over the last 3 years of working together with you as part of Funding Circle, so you've picked something up from somebody else, you've stepped into it, we've kicked on a number of years together. When you reflect back on that, what are your biggest learnings?
That's a good question. I think I didn't necessarily, to your point, I didn't take into consideration how deep our relationship would go. I was very much of the opinion that it might be quite transactional in that, can you do this? There's a delivery, and that's kind of it. And fine, if you want that, you'll get results. But I think the real value and what I've seen, in a world where if we go back in time, we would start this earlier, is be super open with each other. Really start to think about, okay, how do we get the guys incentivized to drive the behaviors that we want to see, drive the growth that we want to see. And so, really start working as one team, and that's ultimately what we are now. So if we get that earlier, great, and just keep that open report, really.
What, in your opinion, would make, so if somebody was considering working with Air, what advice would you give to them? And B, what are the things that they should think about at their end to make sure that's the right thing? Because it's not right for everybody. somebody? Like, what are the things that would make it wrong for them to outsource to somebody?
So maybe if I start with the second part of the question, so what would make it wrong? I think people need to be quite open to the concept of failure. This will not work straight away. If it does, fantastic, but more often than not, it's not going to. We had lots of hypotheses. We launched a credit card and we thought, great, people know what credit cards are, we'll talk about it. The reality is that just didn't work. It didn't go down as we thought it would do. And so,
was that because they thought you were something else? Or was there market conditions, or was there a performance thing, or what was it?
I think, again, the guys here probably have never sold a credit card before. People hear credit card and they've got perceptions. They go, I don't want one of those. So, I've had bad experiences in the past. And, how do we overcome those objections that we didn't think were going to come up? We thought, here you go, here's a product that gives you cash back.
It's easy.
Crack on. It's free. That didn't happen. What I would say to somebody considering working, not just with you, with any outbound partner, is, be prepared to invest time, be prepared to fail and to lose, and to effectively learn from those, and not just go, look, we've done it for a month, this isn't quite working. You've really got to go to the drawing board, bring your heads together, kind of be collaborative, and expect that things will go wrong. Things aren't going to go as you expect them to, but with enough time, with enough patience and enough testing, you will get to an output and to a position like we're in today, which means that we can drive meaningful growth.
Why does working with Air work for Funding Circle?
Yeah, good question. So Funding Circle and FlexPay very specifically operate at a very rapid pace. We care about testing, we care about understanding, we want to get to results as quickly as possible, whether they be wrong or right. We've got hypotheses, but we also ultimately want to go through that two-way door and go, is this what we expected to see? If not, fine, let's get out. And if not, let's continue testing. And the way we've done that with you guys is, we've thrown stuff at you and you've gone, great, we'll work on it. Let's find a way to get over this. But we've also just invested very heavily into the team. We've got an enormous team with you guys. I mean, probably in the 50s plus. And that means that, we can test something in a week. We do sufficient data. We gather sufficient data within a week to go, yes, that works. No, that doesn't work. Let's amend. Let's A/B test something else. And so, again, I think you kind of have to go into this wholeheartedly. It's not a dip your toe in, will this work, will it not work? If you want to start small scale, fine, but it's going to take longer to find results. And net, you're going to probably spend the same money. So, find out what you want to find out. Do it as quickly as possible, run quickly. And I think you guys are really able to keep up with us. You're able to manage our very complex and, and sometimes annoying requests. And that's something that we really value. And half the time, you guys probably haven't worked on it. And actually, we find a way for it to work. So
it's interesting. That just leads me to one more question, just around the insight piece. So it's one thing doing something, it's another thing getting the insight and then adjusting accordingly. Maybe you could just add some commentary around how our teams work together, because you have people internally that look at that. We have people that work, and they work hand in hand to make sure that whether it's success or failure, it's not just that we label it as success or failure, but we actually understand why.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, that's progression in the relationship. But naturally, as there's a handover process, there's a gap in that process somewhere. There's something that's going to drop off. A piece of information isn't going to exist. And so it could be something as small as when an agent on our side picks up the phone to speak to a customer, they acknowledge that someone's already spoken to them. They know the history of that customer, so that it's, we seem joined up. We perform as one team. The guys here call from Funding Circle. They are, they are from Funding Circle.